So, with the question I was asking, is Iran still planning True Promise 3? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it, and they seem to be boasting that this is going to happen, that they're going to really hit Israel. By the same token, though, there seemed to be a contradictory message because there seemed to be also a strand in Iran that doesn't really want to do this. Now, I could be wrong on this, which is why I brought you on to get your take to try to understand what is happening in Iran about the strike. Are they still going to hit Israel?
Yes, without a doubt. They will hit Israel, and the reason is that the Israelis struck Iran. So this is retaliation. They need to create deterrence, and they feel that the only way to do that is to punish the Israeli regime in a way in which it regrets carrying out attacks on Iran. I don't think anyone in the political establishment or among the decision makers is opposed to a significant strike against the Israelis.
Wow. Okay. Now, is the deal with Hezbollah and Lebanon, is the deal with Lebanon and Israel going to impact Iran's decision in any way at all?
No, this is completely separate. Hezbollah fortunately defeated the Israelis. The Israelis were unable to occupy Lebanon. All of the objectives, every single objective of the Israeli regime has failed. They failed to carry out any of their objectives. Hezbollah remains. They will remain across the country. The conditions will be the same as they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So for Netanyahu, this is a catastrophic defeat. They were supposed to reach the Litani River. They were supposed to disarm Hezbollah. They were supposed to impose and dictate their terms to Lebanon. And now you have a ceasefire where they are stuck where they were at the beginning. So that is very important that the Israeli regime has failed in Lebanon. But that is not linked to the fact that the Israeli regime carried out aggression against Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And so Iran will, independent of its friends and allies in the region, punish the Israeli regime.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Very, very interesting. The Middle East is so complicated right now, especially with everything that's going on. One of the things in the deal, though, on some level, but they did disarm Hezbollah, right? I mean, from my understanding, in that deal, Hezbollah was supposed to move heavy weaponry to the Litani River, or across or to the Litani River, effectively allowing the Lebanese military to take control of southern Lebanon. This also separates Gaza from Hezbollah. But correct me if I'm wrong on that, which was one of the objectives of Netanyahu.
No, Hezbollah they never bore arms on the streets of towns and villages south of the Litani River before the confrontation.
I see.
All of Hezbollah's assets and its capabilities are underground. They have underground bunkers, underground tunnels, underground bases, underground hospitals, underground ammunition depots. Everything they have is underground. So before the fighting, Hezbollah never had an armed presence south of the Litani River. And south of the Litani River, the army had always had a presence. So nothing really changes in that regard. With regards to Gaza, you have to keep in mind that this is not a permanent ceasefire. This is a 60-day ceasefire. And Hezbollah will be preparing itself in case the Israelis fail to abide by their commitments during these 2 months, and they will also be preparing themselves for after the 60 days come to an end, and there is no permanent ceasefire. And so the Israelis are going to have to keep their troops in the north as has been the case in the south. So Hezbollah will continue to draw away Israeli troops from Gaza, as they've been doing over the last year, in order to ease pressure on the people of Gaza and the children of Gaza.
Wait, you lost me on that one. I thought, okay, yeah, you lost me on that one. One of the objectives of Netanyahu, even stated objectives, when he was saying the rationale for Israel to take the deal, basically they wanted to rearm, they wanted to separate Gaza from Lebanon, basically separate Gaza from Hezbollah, and they wanted to focus on Iran itself. So one of the preconditions, though, is that Hezbollah can't rearm, and that if Israel sees them rearming, they can resume bombing, or at the very least, supposedly go to the U.S. to get the U.S. permission to try to either resume bombing or try to get the Lebanese military involved in order to deal with any weapons transfers. But you're saying, or at the very least, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're saying that the weapons transfers between Iran and Hezbollah will continue, and that Hezbollah will continue to support Gaza, even though they have a ceasefire.
Absolutely. If the Israeli regime attacks Lebanon, the ceasefire is over, and Hezbollah will strike at the regime hard. These are not among the terms of the ceasefire. The Israelis have no authority over Lebanese territory and Lebanese airspace. That's a myth. The Israelis can say that they will do this or that, but that's just empty talk. That's just the Israelis being aggressive brutes that they are.
No, I accept. I do, Professor. I'm sorry to interrupt. I do accept that. I guess what I'm getting at, though, is they are framing this deal. Even the U.S. is framing this deal as a disconnect between Lebanon and Gaza. And if Israel finds or become aware of any kind of interference while they are annexing the West Bank or annexing and murdering women and children in Gaza, that they can use that as a casus belli to resume strikes. I guess that's what I'm getting at. It seems that what you're saying.
No, the deal is basically a cessation of hostilities between the Israeli regime and Lebanon.
Right.
And that the Israelis will withdraw to the border, and the Lebanese and there will be no firing into Palestine and no firing into Lebanon. And that the terms of the ceasefire are basically the same as they were
2 years ago
in 2006.
Yeah.
In other words, the Israelis do not have any special authority over Hezbollah or what Hezbollah does in Lebanon or what Hezbollah does with Iran. That's not a part of the deal.
Okay. I mean, I thought rearmament was part of it.
These are Israeli spin doctors, basically.
Yeah. Wow.
And American and Western spin doctors. Otherwise, the deal is just a deal to end the fighting, and things go back to where they were before October the 8th.
Do you think the deal would last? Do you think this was going to last beyond the 60 days?
It's not clear. I don't know. It's quite possible that it could fall apart within a few days, a few weeks, and after a couple of months. Because the Israeli regime and Netanyahu may need another crisis. So who knows? The Israelis, they are brutal, and they will do anything they want, and they will always have the Western support to do whatever they want. So I think eventually there will be another war at some point. But when will that war be? I have no idea.
From your point of view, what happens to Gaza from here on out?
I think that the Israeli regime will not succeed in Gaza. Iran will continue to support Gaza. Iran will continue to arm Gaza. And Gaza will continue to get support from the resistance, from Yemen, from Iraq, from the axis of resistance. And hopefully, when Iran punishes the Israeli regime, that will also create an incentive for the Americans to put pressure, and for others to put pressure to end the Holocaust that they brought about.
Let me ask you this: if this is a win, and I agree with you, it's a win in the context of Israel not getting what it wanted, because what it wanted to do was occupy southern Lebanon. I agree with you; they weren't able to take a doghouse, let alone a village. But if this is a win, why did they accept a ceasefire? Meaning, why did they agree to the terms of the ceasefire?
Because the Israeli regime and Netanyahu were under a lot of pressure from Washington. And the situation inside Israel is not good. The economic situation, the security situation, the military situation, it is not good. And the ICC
Arrest warrant
ruling and arrest warrants also contribute to this. The environment is getting very bad for the United States, and so the international environment. So the United States had put pressure on him. Netanyahu did not want the ceasefire, and the political establishment in Israel did not want the ceasefire, basically because Netanyahu obviously he's afraid that if he ends the war, that they will remove him from power, and he'll get into trouble, not for carrying out a Holocaust, but for financial corruption that is an internal issue among Zionists.
But why did Lebanon?
But the pressure on Israel was immense.
No, that I agree with you on. I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, you had soldiers killing themselves, for God's sake. Other ones telling them not to go into Gaza because it was somewhat of a hornet's nest. But why did Lebanon, meaning if indeed Lebanon won, why did they take the ceasefire? Because taking the ceasefire, look, I know what you're saying, that it's not going to create a wedge between Lebanon helping Gaza. But I'm telling you, the U.S. full well believes it, especially since the U.S. was working on the side of Israel as they crafted the deal. And I would imagine part of the tripwire would be this arming of Gaza, or this rearming of Hezbollah, that they would use as a justification to resume the conflict. I could be totally wrong, but I get the sense that that's what America and that's what Israel is thinking about the deal. No, please.
The ceasefire agreement is not about Hezbollah rearming. That's not something that the Israelis can enforce, and it's not. They have no.
Well, I'm less talking about Hezbollah rearming and more so the arming of Gaza, meaning the arming of Gaza, because what they're trying to do, they're trying to create a wedge. They're in their mind, they think if we can get Hezbollah to stop fighting, then we can take the West Bank and we can take Gaza without having to deal with the missiles raining in from Hezbollah. That is in their minds.
Well, right now it is a ceasefire.
Right.
So this is not a permanent ceasefire, and it could collapse at any time. And Hezbollah is preparing itself for
the collapse.
That scenario. So the Israelis are still going to have to remain or keep a large segment of their military in the north.
Oh, I see your point. Regardless of whether Hezbollah is attacking or not, the potential is always there for the deal to fail, which means that Israel has to keep their military somewhere near the northern border. Okay, that makes sense. I get that. One more thing before I let you go. How is Israel thinking of dealing with Trump? And the reason I ask that question is because Donald Trump is coming into a fundamentally different situation. In the very beginning, the first time he came in, there was conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. He was willing to make a deal with Israel, with the Arab states. That is not really the situation now. Saudi Arabia and Iran have mended fences, both of which are under the auspices of BRICS at this point, whether in fact or at the very least de facto. You get a Middle East that hates Israel's guts at this point because they've gone on the genocidal rampage for the last year. So, like, Donald Trump is coming in with an Israel first policy after getting $30 million from Miro Adelson. And he hired a bunch of kooks and lunatics who in his administration all the way through. And so I get the sense that one of his main focuses is going to be on Israel. Israel, however, I'm sorry, is going to be on Iran. Iran, however, is signing a treaty with Russia for security, basically a security treaty between the two. They've ingratiated themselves to the other Arab states at this point. What is that going to look like if Donald Trump tries to create a pressure campaign against Iran? What is that going to do? For one, do you think it's going to be successful? And A, and B, what do you think it will look like in reality, in real terms?
Well, first of all, the president of the United States is effectively Anthony Blinken, and as well as Jake Sullivan. These are the people who are running the show, especially when it comes to our region. And these are two Israeli firsters. They're Zionists.
Yeah.
And they are supremacists. So the lunatics that Trump brings into power are not going to be any more pro-Israel than these two people. These two people are clearly, they care more about Israel than they care about the United States. I think that's clear as day. That's what their ideology is.
Yeah.
So regardless of what Trump is all about and what his people are all about, and I agree some of them are absolute lunatics, but I don't think there's anything Trump can do more for Israel than what Jake Sullivan and Blinken have already done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Trump is in a very difficult position because the position of the United States is declining very rapidly on all accounts, economically, politically, internationally, soft power, its image, everything. And on the other hand, Trump is a divisive figure, both at home and abroad. And he promised not to engage in wars. So it's going to be very difficult for him to escalate when he's promised to bring about peace and quiet.
Look, I would tell you, Donald Trump lies as easily as he breathes. I have no idea what Donald Trump is going to do. He is a wild card. I hope he sticks with the campaign pledge to not have wars. It's just people tend to be policy, and the people that he's putting into that position are insane. Can you give me just 30 seconds on one last question? Has the agreement between Russia and Iran been signed? And do you know what's in that agreement?
It will be signed soon. The two presidents, I think, will meet and sign it. It is a comprehensive deal. It will further enhance the relationship between the two countries. And by the way, I do agree with you that Trump is a serial liar. But the point is that his supporters have expectations.
Yeah.
They want his promise. They want their lives to change, and therefore, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to do otherwise. But I think Trump, to a large degree, and Biden, they let Iran and Russia towards a greater cooperation with one another.
Professor, always appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. Professor Mohammad Marandi, he's professor of English literature and Orientalism at the University of Tehran. And I am going to go